And we're gonna start with our recording. This is the fun part where everyone on YouTube gets like see me starting things up. All right. Broadcasting over to Facebook. And I will also man the chat as well as it'll take a sec, but I
Yeah.
will mute myself because we'll get a little bit of feedback. World needs your fire. I love it because it's so about that like unique you thing, right? That I'm
Mhm.
all about. Going live, going live. We probably are literally live, but it's just showing it's loading.
Oh, I
Um,
know. Sometimes there's that delay and
we are literally live, but it's just there we go. And we're muted and we can begin. Welcome, welcome everybody. As you know, I'm Amanda Kunkel, your universe channel, and I have invited the brilliant and beautiful and amazingly like blossoming rose, Denise Purdy, to be here with us today and to share how the world needs your fire and to share a bit about her special sauce, which is, of course, entirely universe led, as we all are. And if you hear dogs barking, that is from my end because I have very graciously taken the stick to pet sit to rescue dogs for my friends while they are on vacation. And of course, as you know, with rescued animals, they tend to have some anxiety problems and need a little extra loving. So Miss Penny might, yes, you, hi baby, might growl or make a fun appearance to be known on Zoom. Or the cat might, or you know how that goes, Denise.
yes, they want to
Welcome,
join.
welcome. I'm going to just hand this over to you now to let everybody know who you are and why should they should be listening about you talking about their fire.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, everyone, as Amanda said, I'm Denise Purdy, and I'm excited to be here. I really enjoy talking about this and really connecting women to their fire and really what's important about that. So it might be helpful to share a little bit about myself and just, how I got here. And it's a little bit of a story, but to keep it short, I actually started my journey into coaching as a health coach, and that was a result of just some challenges that my daughter had had, and we sought out some natural, um, holistic treatments for her. And as that started to shift in our family life and people were noticing, people started asking questions, and that got me going on the route of helping people in a different way. I was already in a service industry, but helping people in a different way. And as I dove into that, I really saw that there was something else needed. Whenever I was health coaching, I noticed that it had nothing to do with food and more to do with our mind, our body, our emotions. And I got really curious about why we behaved the way that we do. And that just kind of took me on this trajectory of curiosity and exploration for my clients and then also for myself. And where that's led me is this continual unfolding of who I am and what I have to offer. And the one thing that I can tell you about my journey so far is every time I stray from what's normal and natural for me, I experience disappointment, frustration, irritation. And it's continued to bring me back to what is my soul led fire? What is my soul here to express? Um, and I know that it's like becoming a little bit more cliche of like, oh, you're special, you're unique, but it really is true, right? There's so much truth to it that we all do have a different special sauce that we bring to the world, and it's here for a reason. And so it's my joy and it's my pleasure to help women connect to that for themselves so that they can bring their own fire, they can bring their own magic to the world. Because what I have discovered myself is what I'm sharing with people is what they most need. So a lot of my own personal experience is something that they're going through, something that they've been challenged by, and I'm able to help them because I've been through the fire and I've also ignited my own fire because of that. And so it's there that when we really connect to what is our special sauce, that the fire can actually burn.
And I love how you're talking about connecting to this special sauce because I remember, oh my gosh, I think it was about 5 years ago, one of my colleagues in the UK would do as part of one of her ceremonies with her clients was having them walk across broken glass without cutting themselves. And I asked her once how you did it. And she first goes, oh, well, you need this very specific type of wine bottle because when you break it, first of all, it doesn't like shatter into pointy bits. So to cut yourself on it, it would really take a lot.
Mm,
The purpose of it is that it's about them believing in themselves, right? And their fire, right? This reminded me of fire walking, glass walking, right?
yes. Yeah.
And so it's like, right, if you're walking on your fire, like there's no way you can get scratched by glass, especially glass that doesn't have a scratchy point.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that that's a beautiful point because really, a part of that journey is once you really realize and own what is you, what's for you, what is you, um, and you believe that about yourself and you're just really in full ownership of it, life just becomes easier and it becomes more
Mhm.
blissful and you're less charged by the things that are happening in the world. Even if there are people in your, close proximity, you're less activated by what's happening because you just know like you're in your lane and that's the lane you're supposed to be in. And no matter what other people do, they're not pulling you into their lane, right? You're not falling prey to that, so to speak. You're not living in the victimhood. You're instead more in your power and in your own control center.
Yes, absolutely. And I would love anybody that is here live or if you're watching on this replay, give us just a comment if you have had these fabulous experiences, because I know you have, but if you'd like to just share a little bit about what they were when you had that ignited fire. Maybe it was you did like do a glass walking ceremony. Maybe it was, you triumphed the bully in the HOA by simply being yourself, right? Because we all know how those HOA meetings go. If you haven't been to one of your friends has told you all about it, right?
Mhm.
And just really tune into that frequency right now. Because, and so this is my question for you, Denise, it's like, tell us a little bit more about constantly being in that fire energy because there's, like I asked just now, the moments, and then there's a constant, like, you are the gas stove, that Bunsen burner is always right there and it like will flip without you even trying. Tell us a
Yeah,
little
well, I
bit.
yeah, I think what's beautiful about it is when you really are connected to your own fire, you know the appropriate times to move. And I don't mean that like because I don't actually believe there's a right or a wrong time for things, but you know energetically in your body and your heart and your soul when it's time to move on something and when it's time to maybe what I would say rest or be more in the allowing and the receiving. But it's a very I the best way for me to describe it is there's just a knowing. It's an internal knowing that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, and when that fire is on, um, you're right on schedule, you're right on time, everything is happening for you. You're just in full belief. And there's just an energetic, like I think about it as like your back is just more erect, you're just more confident in the way you move. And you know that like you believe in the unseen
Mhm,
and you
mhm,
know that like what you're doing will result in what you desire or better, right? Like that more is coming. What you're the energy you're using to move is just so pure and so full of fire
mhm.
that the universe can't help but respond in some way, shape, or form, right? And it's like not for us to control what that looks like. And that's a part of the journey, right? I feel like that's a part of the journey of peeling back. Is like, okay, where are we trying to control and manipulate? Because that's actually not your fire. Your
Mhm.
fire is just that full on trust, right? That I'm moving today and this is the energy I'm moving in and it allows me to move with much more confidence.
So tell me, as we all know here, because I state this every time, that people watching today are most likely the high achieving business owners, right? Now, your clients usually, what type of women are you finding are drawn to you within your work? Is it business clients? Is it
Yeah.
CEOs of companies? Like how is that working for you? For you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a combination, and I really see this as I think because of the vastness of my own experience. So on one hand, I have the ambitious woman who's also a mom, and she's really trying to figure out how to balance being the leader at home, and not to say she's married or not, it can be either, but really being a leader from being a positive role model for her kids and really demonstrating that she can handle confidently all of the, I'm going to call it stressors of life, right? Because we do experience stress, but it's really how we're handling it that it matters. And she just desires to feel more harmony and peace within herself in the way that she's leading and trusting herself more. And so then there's that female, there's that woman, right, who's got that ambition. She really wants to go further, but she realizes the stress, the way she's allowing it to impact her, kind of pulls her back a little bit. And so that's her. And then the flip side of that is a lot of women also come to me who are in a role that they love, or loved at one point, but they know that there's more available to them and they're ready for transition. And they're
Yeah.
ready to do it differently, right? So they've achieved a lot. So they can typically they're in powerful seat positions is what I would call them, where they have a great opportunity to really be a leader and be a demonstrator of how to get things done. But maybe they achieve that position using what we would call a lot of masculine energy, right? A lot of hustle. And they realize that's not the way they want to do it the next round, right? For the next level of achievement. And so that's really how I experience my clients coming to me. It's from those two realms, ready for, they're both really ready for a transition.
Mhm.
It's just what that transition looks like in their life.
And the fire within,
Hmm.
while they're in this transitional period, is the fire the outcome or is the fire the catalyst?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, honestly, because there's that fire that's like, it's almost like it's, um, uh oh gosh, I'm not grasping the word, but when you first get it, it's like it's kindling, right? Like they know there's more available to them and they feel something's pulling them forward, but they're not quite sure what. And then as we do the work together, right, we really get the fire going. It's like lit, it's up, it's burning, it's bright. And yeah, like that's really what I would say.
I'm getting this entire image in my mind of when I lived on the side of Mount Nittany. We used to always have fires, and I am terrible at actually starting a real fire from like nothing, from like little kindlings and everything around, because that's we will I like where's my firewood? All my firewood stuff is like right here in the forest, right? And so I was just thinking of me and all my friends with like our paper plates as we're like fanning the fire, going, okay, we're not going to use kerosene this time. We're not going to, right? And how that process, if you're trying to like literally do it on yourself and don't have an expert to help you, um, all you need is a Boy Scout, right? And they're like, oh, okay, excuse me, let me show you how this works, or a Girl Scout, right? So it's like when people are trying it on their own, they're sort of like me on the side of my mountain with all my friends being like, we had this. Oh, maybe. Okay, wait, who's got the lighter? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
versus just, gosh, have you ever lit an old dry Christmas tree on fire?
I haven't, but I can tell you. So I had this experience. I'll tell you, this is really funny. It's funny now. It wasn't funny then. Let me be clear. But when I was a kid, my dad had some really old firecrackers, and
Okay.
this is the we took them out to set them off, right? And um, I was holding the punk in my hand while I was trying to take them apart, and I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention. And the punk was lit, and it lit the end of the firecracker. And old means old, right? And they burned a whole lot faster, and they blew up in my hands.
Ooh.
So I kind of like to think about like when we try things on our own, right? We might get somewhere fast, but are we blowing ourselves up, right? Are we burning out? because we're using the same, I'm going to say, thoughts to create what we created before, right? We're like not using the fullness of who we are and like the feminine parts of us to really do the creating. We're just driving through, right?
That has been, and I think you might use this with in your work too, which is like not just saying, okay, who is the woman that you want to be at the other end of this, but like being her now and making choices and decisions from that space.
Yeah.
And not, I think you just said it, what has gotten you to this point, because what's gotten you to this point is just going to keep getting you to this point and this point. I mean, wait, the definition of insanity.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. Another way, I had a mentor, and this I do use this a lot now because it really makes sense to me. The reason that I've always invested in support and continued was, number one, when I became a coach, I just committed that I saw that that was necessary, that for me to go as far as I wanted to go, I knew that I would need support. And for me to take my clients as far as I wanted them to be able to say they wanted to go, I knew that I would also need to have done that work. Because I
Mhm.
think, like you, um, there's a certain amount of, I'm going to call it education that's helpful, to receive in any job or industry or career or whatever, right? But honestly, like, I believe it's like my intuitive sense and my own experience that really actually helps me support my clients, because I can see it a little bit more clearly, right? Than, oh, I just have this clinical knowledge,
Right.
right? That if we just do this, but really having a very felt sense of what the experiences are make a difference. But back to my mentor, he said, you can't see the picture when you're standing in the frame.
Oh, I like that one.
Which makes it so, right. So if you think about it, when like here, I have some pictures of my kids on the wall, but if I was in that picture, I don't actually know what the picture looks like until I'm out of, right? Until I'm out here looking at it. And that's why having a mentor is helpful, right? Because we can see what you can't when you're sitting in it. And
Mhm.
so, yes, um, make decisions from the most future version of you that you can. But when you're not able to even see or feel that, that's where support is really helpful.
Yes. And I would love for you to share, take an example. And of course, with confidentiality in mind and everything, but what was like one or two client outcomes for you that you really feel like are like this is what we always do. This is what like all clients get across the board, but they got it all in one, right? So what does that like actually look like in like the real life terms with these outcomes for your clients?
Yeah, I would say, on one side, there's, like I mentioned, there's the, successful, ambitious woman who's a mom, and wants to feel more peace at home. And I actually have a current, it's actually fun, client who I was also able to coach her daughters. She wanted her daughters to have coaching. And so I was able to basically to coach the family, which is super cool. And so I would say the outcomes, number one, is just that entire family. And this isn't just because I coach the daughters, because this started happening well before I coached them, but the level of awareness that all of them have allows for greater communication and greater connection. And it's just such a beautiful thing that, the mom has more peace about how she's interacting, and she has her own business. And so it's like she gets to take not only that confidence of how she interacts and how she communicates with her kids, but into her business and how she's acting there. And so complete transformation. So she went from like a control freak like really feeling like she needed to manage every single detail so that every outcome was exactly what she was anticipating it would be. And a lot of that came from just being completely overwhelmed and not knowing how to handle, you're right, not feeling confident in how to handle the things that came along that didn't meet where she felt like she could handle things. To now she's handling things literally like it's actually really fun to look at the number of things she's managing right now
Mhm.
with complete clarity, with complete, trust that, okay, I'm making this move, this is the decision, and just the way she's internally communicating. So I think that's really what it comes back to is, how are we communicating with ourselves in such a way that allows us to take these powerful moves with confidence. And so there's that experience. And so her business has grown. And what's really fun, she's in direct sales. She, through November and December, did something that really caught actual corporate's attention. And so she got invited to this special meeting. It was just really a fun story to just see how she wasn't necessarily at the level that she wanted to be. And then in November and December, she started taking all of this action that was really aligned for her. And then it, resulted in, of course, some byproducts of that are more income and things like that. But then also, higher level recognition, which is what she was also looking for. So really full circle, right? She's experiencing the success in her business, and then with her family life too. It's just a really beautiful experience there.
Right.
Um,
Would you say
yeah.
when a lot of these women come to you, they're experiencing what, like a lot of mommies and sort of overloaded women that are successful happen, which is like they can handle a bit of the chaos, but then they lose their keys and they have a meltdown.
Yes. Yeah.
They,
Yeah. Or,
right?
like one of
They've
their kids. I mean, it depends on the age of their kids, right? But somebody spills milk or like something super simple, right? But they lose it, right? Because really, I like to look at it as they're just a time bomb,
got-
right? Because they're usually overcommitted for various reasons. And so, yeah, one little thing they're like sets them off. And then, depending on where they are, depends on how they lose it. Because we tend to control ourselves a little bit more when we're at work or on the job, depends on those relationships. So we take it out on our kids, right? So a lot of times that's what they come to me is like they realize they're not handling things well and they're taking it out on their kids or their family, and that's really impacting them there. So there's a lot of guilt and shame that pops into the window, right? And says,
Yeah, and have they also been maybe at work and home avoiding certain conversations, whether at work maybe it's like a pay raise conversation, or at home it's a hey, certain things need to change in our dynamic conversation, because they're like, oh gosh, I don't want it to be like when I lost my keys and like, you know, blah, out of nowhere. So I'm just going to avoid making some of this transition because it could lead to something even worse.
yeah. So, right. The downward spiral. And again, that's them using their mind that,
Yep.
that's created where they are, and they're trying to use their mind to uncreate, which doesn't actually work. Yeah, but avoidance comes in. I actually have um, a workshop that I've run a couple of times called the patterns of protection. And all of that comes in to these dynamics, right? So they're trying mentally to protect themselves from multiple outcomes, which
Mhm.
creates avoidance, right? Which creates control, those kind of things, and really actually limits them from being in that full expression of asking for what they need and what they want and receiving it.
And so, like, and we've all been there, right? Like, I tend to get a little ADHD and then will like lose my phone in my purse. Thank goodness for like the Apple thing now where I can be like, where's
Right.
my phone? And I ding it. And then like it'll ding a ling ling, right? I'm like, okay, it really is still in my purse. But if like the kid or the dog or a friend or like somebody's knocking on the door at the same time, it's like, oh my goodness, because I have like accidentally put everything out here, right? Instead of bringing it all back into my heart, because it happens to everybody, right? There is this
Absolutely.
3D environment that we have to navigate. And so the really neat thing is you're like, hey, look, this isn't going to take years of therapy. This isn't you having to dive into, maybe like me, like, are you a little ADHD or is this the dyslexic thing the way you like, no, like, yes, that's all important, but hey, this is actually about this fire. Like we can actually address this in a way that isn't going to dig all this shit up and isn't going to take years and years of processing. It's like that backdoor method, so to speak, that the universe uses. Like we're not going to try to drill through a concrete wall with a
Right.
wood drill.
Yes. Yes.
It all comes back to this fire. It's actually easier than it feels or it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I've discovered that when we approach what we want through the lens of pure desire, all
Mhm.
of the things that actually need to be unearthed that are preventing you from actually living that naturally expose themselves. So we don't have to go searching and, like digging through the dirt for them. They're going to show up, and then that's what we get to, right, expose so that more of the flame gets to be lit and burn brighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's just really important. I think if I were to send a message, if there was one thing I wanted to say, is that really, truly, your special sauce matters. And
Mm.
it matters. It matters for you. It matters for all of your loved ones. So whether you're a parent or not, a grandparent, it doesn't actually matter where you are in your life journey. Like, it actually matters. And I think about this from the lens of legacy, because part of my journey was really looking at how my oldest is 25. So I didn't share this about my story. I was 19 when I found out I was pregnant, but I also noticed I was in a very lengthy, I'm going to call it, family pattern. So my mom was 17 when she had my brother. My grandma was 17. She had my mom. My brother was 18 when he had my niece. And then I was 19. And none of them have happy marriages. And I just remember then thinking, okay, wait, they all got married because that was the rule, right? You were supposed to get married. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I just kind of started this whole journey of like, okay, we're shifting what's happening in this journey, right? I'm not going to live that way. I'm not going to live in poverty. I'm not going to have these terrible relationships. And so I would say that, like, I started forming my legacy then, but I didn't really understand until more recently how important that was, because really now what I can say is my oldest is 25. She's married, no kids, which is what I wanted. Not because I didn't want her to be childless, but because I wanted her to really have more conscious decision around having a child, right? And the implications that that brings, because let's face it, raising kids is not easy. But the legacy truly is for each of us individually first, because it's actually, I believe, what allows us to be at peace with who we are. So when we live in and we breathe our own special sauce, we're actually at peace because we know this is what we're here to do. We know that this is who we're supposed to be. And it just makes life easier. So I think that, like, strong message there, but really coming back to who we are, igniting our own fires, living in the fire matters
Mhm.
so much for our own life. And then we give everyone else permission to do that. And I just like to think about this from a worldly view. I know a lot of times we like to think, oh, I can't impact the world, but really we can, and we can do that one person at a time, right? And so, and it all starts here. It starts here.
I love that. And so tell us, what is one way right now that women who are listening to this, or even men, right? Um, because they do still look at my page, even
It's
though I
fair.
work,
Yes, it's
right,
so
with like
fair.
98%
This
women.
actually matters for everyone. So it's
Yes,
not just women. Yes.
yes. Um, what is one of the easy ways to work with you right now? And when I say easy, I mean you're not going to turn around, right, and be like, oh, come join this 12-month mastermind. Because we know right now everyone's a little hesitant to reach out when it could turn into something like that. So what
Yeah.
is the easy way that is going to help people ignite their fire and get them started on this journey that you can offer them right now?
Yeah,
That's
I would say one of two ways. One is just to catch me on Facebook. I do lives frequently. And so if you're just wanting to catch a little
you.
bit here and there, you can catch a live. I'm constantly sharing just things that pop into my brain and my awareness that are truths that I believe are relevant for everyone. And then I also have a Dare to Live program that's super quick and simple. It's a week-long experience that I run on Facebook in a Facebook group. And it's a great way to just dive in and really just look at where am I not fully connected to my heart? Where am I not fully connected to my fire? And then how do I bring that into, and I say dare because literally I think that it is daring of us to live like
Yeah.
full out, fully expressed. And that's what that week-long experience is about.
Yes. I love that one. Thank you. And will you, when we pop off here, put your socials in the comments here so people can
Yeah.
just pop right over and get to you? All
Yeah, absolutely.
right. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Denise. My fire feels your fire, and I thank you for coming and playing in the fire dance.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. And for everybody else, we will, of course, loop back around to take a look at the comments throughout the day, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay, bye.